Hello and good evening. It is Monday, so that means it's time for Enterprise at 8 here on Live Long and Podcast for the Star Trek Enterprise Review Show. Tonight, we have not one, not two, but 3 episodes to cover as part of this ongoing series. Season 4, episodes 12, 13, and 14, titled Babel One, or Babel One, United and the Aenar, or also known as the Romulan Interference Arc. But we're just getting started here on this live stream here on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitch. I am not Jody Simpson. He is running late. Told me to start without him, so I'm filling in here. I'm like Trip. I've been given command suddenly here. It's been about 20 years.
20 years?
That's right.
It would have been so great if you weren't prepared for your own opening.
It would have been even better. I don't have any clever intros prepared here, but here's the man who might give us fun facts early and make us cry, Adam Woodward.
Well, I remember this date because Babel One was first broadcast on the UPN network in 2005 in January, and it hit a series low viewership of only 2.5 million, Dave. So right after this aired was when they finally pulled the plug on this series.
This was the nail in the proverbial coffin, if you will.
Yeah. Now the good thing is they didn't throw it out right away. They let them finish this season off. But that was it. This is it. This was the decision was made January 2005.
Yeah, and this finished airing in February, but would have been shot probably a few months earlier. Yeah. Okay, and also joining us once again, Kevin Millard.
I know nothing about these episodes.
Yes, well, you've seen them
no
now.
Fun facts. Yes, I have seen them.
You have seen them now. Yeah. And we're going to be breaking it all down here.
You people are even uglier than I remember.
That's right.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
I remember my friend called me and told me that they canceled, and he lived in Chicago. And at the time, I said, I think I was just Star Trek'd out at that point in my life. So it was a good break.
Yeah, well, there wouldn't be anything really after this season until anything Star Trek until for another 5 years or so, or 4 years, I'd say. The movie being the next thing that came out with the Chris Pine and everything else. But
that was a good break.
It was really only 4 years, but it feels like it was longer in some ways.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to break it all down here. Spoilers ahoy. We're talking about all 3 of these episodes. We'll talk about them somewhat in order. The, Babel One, United, and the Aenar. They are kind of one story, but, they have 3 different directors, 3 different sets of writers. So they are separate, but it's one of these to be continued stories. So we're covering them all in this one podcast. Sam's fun fact about United is his sister was born the day United aired. Well, that's fun. And then you were united with your sister, I suppose. All right. Well, guys, Jody says he'll probably, join us in about 5 to 10 minutes or so. So before Jody arrives, what can we cover off? Do we want it? We can talk the fun facts.
Well, let's set it up, Dave. Well, we can. I can go further if you like right now. Just give me a second.
Go for it. Let's talk it. What don't I know other than this was what killed Star Trek for better part of 4 years.
Yep. The crew of the Enterprise are traveling to a planet of Babel. I'm not sure how we say it here. But this is the same planet the crew of the Enterprise 1701 is going to journey to Babel.
Right.
Which
yes. So the same
which was the first appearance of the Andorians and Tellarites. So this really does they stayed true to the story there. Yes. The Mako honor guide that met Growl in the launch bay was an homage to the honor detail that greeted Spock's father, Sarek, in the Enterprise Journey to Babel as well. I remember that episode. I remember that time because that was the first introduction into Spock's parents, if I remember that.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure you were there when we covered it on our original series rewatch.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. An episode I like a lot too. So this is kind of the beginnings of the Federation, what kind of brought these 4 founding members together was sort of this common enemy in the Romulans, it seems to be.
Yeah,
but we don't know that.
But we do.
We do.
But we do. Okay. Yeah. Well, Kevin. So you've never seen these before, right? These were
No.
these. So how do you feel about this arc?
Oh, I loved it. This the beginning of the Federation is it's really interesting, and how I love Shran, of course, in anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just three really good episodes. I was entertained through the whole thing.
So this episode starts with them picking up the Tellarite ambassador, if I remember right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Like after the teaser in the first episode, which shows Shran, have to abandon his ship. So that's kind of where we start. But after, the really early, he picks up the Tellarite and he's taking them to negotiate with the Andorians.
But I thought it was funny because so they're going to negotiate with the Andorians, but the Tellarites can't drive their ships through Andorian space. So the Enterprise has to go get them.
Right. They don't trust them to fly there on their own. So they have to get in like the taxi over there is what the story is.
And I love that Trip basically started by saying, "Oh, we're now like driving
We're taxi service. Are we at Uber now, Captain?" He's like, "You shut your mouth. Or I'll transfer you off this ship." Well, yeah, that's where this is where so this story, this arc really ends on like a kind of a down note because Trip's leaving the ship. He says, "I'm transferring off the ship." What was your reaction to that, Kevin?
It's not happening, is it?
Yeah, it is actually.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It won't last, but it's happening.
Oh, so it'll be like T'Pol's marriage. It won't matter at all.
It will last a little longer than T'Pol's marriage, I think. I think in terms of episode count. I think he's going to go over there for a couple, like maybe 3 episodes. There's only so many episodes left in this season, so it can't be that long, right? But he's going to go over there, and he's by the end of this story, he's leaving because
we only have 10 episodes left.
Is that it? Is it even less than that? I want to say. I'm just trying to remember how many more come after this.
Actually, after these 3, you're right. We only have
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 8 stories, a couple of which are 2-parters. So like we said, we only have 5 podcasts left after this one. In Enterprise, right? So we're really wrapping up. So Trip's time on board Columbia will be short-lived, but it will be eventful. And it's kind of an interesting swap up. But you almost kind of wish now that the show is ending, it feels like they don't have time to really do it right, So it's we'll probably
they've been doing it right almost the entire season. It's such a shame that it gets canceled. Now I'm like, God damn it! Like you guys made me like this show, and now
it's over.
It's only 4 seasons.
Yeah, but it really only started to pick up, and that's what they always say about a lot of these Star Trek shows is that that they have a few years of just trying to get used to who the characters are and how they want to write them. But people didn't have that patience for Enterprise, so and I think the franchise fatigue was real. And the fact that it was on UPN, there's a whole bunch of factors that, kind of, I think, hurt it. But at the time, network TV was changing.
I think
the model was changing.
The fact that, too, is that they had to, they were trying to copy the original series a little too much. There was so much repetitive stuff we've seen over and over and over.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they were trying to cover the original series, but do it in a next generation era sort of sensibility, I guess is the only way I can really think of it. And
I also feel like this 4th season, they're using more of the cast again. Like the cast, it feels like a wider cast, even though it's the same people. Like Hoshi's in it a lot more. Travis has been in it a lot more. Like it doesn't feel like just the Archer and T'Pol show.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and Trip sometimes, right, too. But it was really like only those 3 in the beginning because they were trying to follow that original series model of, we'll just feature the big 3 and then it's too many characters for the audience to follow. Actually, never mind. we're gonna show them all.
Even like Phlox in this one was like in these 3 episodes was heavily used as well. So I mean, it was good to see that. I like that. And you know what? Like I think Strange New Worlds has been the first one to break that whole. Like we got to wait a year before the show gets good.
Yeah, well, hopefully the show will get even better, in the future. But yeah, like that's been sort of. I wouldn't say that's so true about original series. I don't think the first year of original series is much. Actually, I'd say the third season is actually the weakest of those 3 seasons. But next gen, Deep Space Nine, even Voyager and Enterprise, they had that this curse of being sort of slow to get off, slow to have episodes that were going to really draw the audience in.
Discovery too. I mean, look at Discovery. That was like.
Well, Discovery, yeah. Well, I could write a whole paper on Discovery, I think, and why they're failures and sort of missteps, but and good things too. I guess we'll be covering season 5 in the near future, Adam. Like whenever it feels like a long time since we talked about season 4. I don't even remember exactly when that was, but we're coming back to that in the new year, I believe.
January 22.
January 22. January 22 was the last time, and we're going to be coming back in January of 24. So it's been 2 years since the season. Wow. Well, I guess they're hoping for a dedicated fan base, maybe as dedicated as the Enterprise fan base. Who's funny here, guys? Let's jump into the screenshots, if you will. It's gonna probably take us a little while to get through all 3 episodes. The first teaser is we see some dead Endorians and a bridge on fire until Shran pulls himself out of the garbage pile. And we see here that he's telling everybody get to escape pods. They've been attacked, get abandoned ship. And that's sort of like the big teaser, anything I'm leaving out there? I think that was mostly it.
Pretty much it.
Yeah, that's kind of what sets it up. And then Enterprise, we see this opening scene here for Babel One, where Hoshi is coaching Archer in his Tellarite, etiquette. Yeah. Oh, and make sure the dog doesn't get seen because they might want to eat him.
And this was really nice. Like I really enjoyed this. This reminded me of like Troy getting Picard ready for a diplomatic mission or whatever. Right? We haven't really seen any of that in this show, really.
Yeah, and it's not a hard thing to write, but it's a nice thing to see. It's almost like, oh wow, you actually give Hoshi something to do.
And like we're supposed to believe that they're yelling at each other, but then he calls her fat, and you're like, okay, well, I guess this is not.
Yeah, something's off here. Are you guys playing the instant game? Yeah, don't let him see Porthos because Porthos is a delicacy amongst the Tellarites.
Your mangy mutt. I love that.
Mangy mutt. It's all. I believe dogs are also eaten by some human cultures as well. Not just Tellarites, but Archer's not too keen on the prospect of that. And then, we just want to mention the writers of Part 1 are Mike Sussman and Andre Bormanis. Director is David Stryden on Part 1. And there's Archer using his Tellarite etiquette on Trip a couple times here in this first episode. And that's where he's like, "What are we, a taxi service now? Are we an Uber, Captain Archer?"
I just want to explore. That's all he says.
Well, this is kind of exploration. I don't know what.
I always felt that way around Next Gen too. Was like they were like ferrying ambassadors all the time. They're doing negotiations. There wasn't a lot of exploring.
No.
Well, you explore, but once you have explored that place, now you have to maintain that relationship. Is also part of space too, I guess. But
well, I mean, when you consider what they're trying to do here and set up the Federation, there isn't a lot of room for that. That's for sure.
Yeah, and they only have so many episodes left, so they're dedicating 3 episodes to sort of like how Archer helped pull the initial foundation of what would become the Federation through these events.
We already saw that little sneak peek from Daniels. Remember last season?
Well, yeah, and I guess that's the only thing that sort of like taints this for me is that Daniels has already told Archer that he's sort of predestined to bring these species together. So, I almost wish he didn't have that knowledge, but he does. So, and so anyway, but he's got his little banter here with the Tellarite ambassador, whose name escapes me at this moment.
Graal.
Ambassador Brawl. And Archer gives him some really good insults to start, in particular.
You people are even uglier than I remember.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed nothing was coming back.
Yeah, they were almost like stunned, like, what is with this human, And they're going out there, but we're told the Tellarites are a species that thrive on being argumentative. And we see the Tellarite is even willing to do a handshake and to reciprocate, right? Later on in the mess hall, the Tellarite ambassador asks Archer, so I understand that the Andorians helped you, save yourself from the Zindies. He's like, oh yeah, he helped save my planet. He's like, then why should we trust you to be impartial in these negotiations? Then he starts going on about the food. He's like, if I wanted Tellarite food, I would have stayed at home. Apparently, I guess Tellarites eat lots of chili peppers and carrots and
gourds
and things like that.
It's like Thanksgiving there,
Yeah.
Just look at that food. That's why they're so disagreeable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's supposed to be like these pig people. These are the Tellarites that actually have like 5 fingers, but there are Tellarites that have like more like hooves or like even just 3 fingers, and have more pronounced pig noses. But I guess this is the more humanoid version, I guess. Yeah, I love when this guy gets in his face and telling him off. Enterprise does divert because they detected I guess a debris field with the sensors, and they come across it, and then I think this is where they realize
they got a distress call.
They don't know it's Shran right away, right? But then they say, oh, we've detected some Andorian escape pods. So they end up bringing the Andorian escape pods in, and we're told that Shran, in his crew of 80, which is comparable to Enterprise, he lost about 60 of them or so. Only about 20 of them survived. So not great. We could see one of them is his lady first officer there, Tala, I guess. Talus, is played by Molly Brink. Anyway, so but Shran believes he was attacked by Tellarites, and then Archer has to kind of break to him that, oh, I happen to have the Tellarite delegation on board. So he's like, you keep them away from us, pigskin. I don't want to be seeing them.
I love that he still calls him Pinkskin. They're like besties, but every now and then he's still like, whatever, pigskin.
Well, I like how that the in this episode the Aenar call the Andorians blueskins.
Yeah.
Because they have white skin or greenish kind of white. Okay, so then we see here that T'Pol looks at the sensor logs from the Andorian ship, and it looks to be a Tellarite ship that attacked. So the Tellarites say, preposterous, madness, we could never have done anything. They deny everything. Then we go to a scene over here with Shran and Archer where they're drinking some more of that Andorian liquor, which Archer has quite the reaction to every time. He sells it pretty well.
Well, again, it's blue, and so it was in Romulan now, right?
Yeah, it's also in this scene where Shran reveals that Talis is now his girlfriend. That she was an aggressive Andorian woman, and she made an overture, and he could have either disciplined her for insubordination or mate with her, and he chose the latter. And Archer's like, good move, good call on that.
So, the way he says mate with her gives me the fucking creeps.
yeah, it was a little weird. But you're like, okay, so Shran's with her now, sure. And then we see here that Enterprise is being pursued by an Andorian ship all of a sudden, but they don't answer hails. Shran's a little bit confused, and then before they know it, they're under attack by the Andorians. What the heck's happening? Archer says, you got to help us stop them or they're going to kill all of us, clearly. So Shran gets in there. He's like, well, let's target the shield emitter. We just go right here. But it doesn't work. And I don't know how they get away. I can't remember. I didn't take enough screenshots in part 1. But eventually
they do torpedoes.
Yes, right.
They eventually get torpedoes off and they manage to get that away. Later on, there's a conference here in the... I guess this is the conference room, but with Archer and Shran and the Tellarite ambassador, where they're just accusing the other of being sort of running a conspiracy, playing a ruse here, and a lot of hurt feelings going all around. And Archer's trying to make sense of it all.
You really believe they hate each other too. Like they really
Yeah.
sell this scene.
Yeah, I know it's really good. It's way more believable even than with the Vulcans sometimes, because the Vulcans are just so pacifist, right? And it's seemingly, and the Tellarites are just in your face. So it's like,
yeah, but you know what else about Jeffrey Combs? I mean, even the relationship with his first officer, like you believe that he's in love with her, like you really do.
Yeah.
I mean, he acts like most of this cast.
He does. He really does. He's like, you're just like, whoa, Jeffrey Combs is here. Forget the rest of you.
You're not watching Scott Bakula in their scenes. You're
always watching Shran. Yeah, like it's true. Like, although, like, I think Archer and well, more specifically, Scott Bakula does a pretty good job with Jeffrey Combs, like keeping up with him and having a good banter. But but yeah, definitely Combs is the big doing the big lifting a lot of the time. In these scenes, knows exactly what his characters, what they need out of his character in each scene.
My point being is that we've seen some episodes where we're meant to, like, what was that episode, that transporter one a few weeks ago?
It was called Daedalus.
Yeah, and the fact is, like, I mean, we were meant to feel like this guy's son died in the transporter and all this stuff, and we had nothing there. There was no emotion. This is much better. I think this guy's he's just a great actor, great addition to the cast.
It's all right, Jody. You got to fix it like a chief engineer. Get your systems back online. So Archer has to separate these two after another break. There's this scene here in the Tellarite ambassador's quarters where they kind of suspect that the humans might be in league with the Andorians, or this might be a conspiracy against them. So the Tellarites are already feeling kind of paranoid about all of this as the tensions mount and rise. And then later on, T'Pol explains to Shran that the Andorian ship that attacked and the Tellarite ship that attacked him both have the same power signature, which shouldn't be possible. Doesn't make any sense.
There, like that. I mean, like, what does T'Pol have to gain from this? And he is very skeptical still.
Yeah, he's very skeptical. He doesn't want to believe it. He even insults her as being like, some Vulcan plot, and Archer has to keep him in check there.
That was good. I liked Archer. He did good. Like, that was a good addition.
You're talking to my first officer.
Yeah. Easy, man. And then there's this dinner scene afterwards here. It's just in the dining room with Archer and T'Pol only. And Archer seems distracted and kind of really worried about all this. Not sure what to do. He hasn't eaten much of his sandwich. I'm trying to remember what else happened, what else this discussion was, but
well, we find out that T'Pol's marriage has been fine, like her divorce has been finalized.
Did she mention that here? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's here.
Yeah, and I guess like Archer's just struggling to kind of sort all this mess out at the moment, right?
Yeah,
I think it's hilarious that, I found this scene very interesting because she got a personal message from Vulcan, yet somebody in the the crew here basically told Archer, "Oh, T'Pol got a phone call," and then like it's just
gossipy on this small ship, I guess, as part of it probably. Archer, they eventually get called away, or Archer gets a call because they followed the warp signature of the ship that attacked them, and they eventually find this. We're showing an image of what we'll come to know as the Marauder, I guess, with all these big subspace transceivers attached to it. We've all watched it, so I don't really need to worry about spoiling it. But we'll find out that this is a Romulan ship that they've sort of outfitted with remote control technology, so they can kind of control it from Romulus with the help of an Aenar pilot, and it can disguise itself as almost any ship, in terms of its appearance and its weapon signature, but not its like power signature, not its warp signature. So that part is unique. Then we get to see, well, it is the Romulans are here pulling the strings.
I think they missed an opportunity here to put them in original series uniforms.
Yeah, I would have been fun. I would have loved to have seen them in original series Romulan
Or something at
uniform.
least inspired by that, right?
I mean, they didn't have the budget.
Yeah,
No, of course not.
it's more looks more like what we saw in Next Gen era and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but
these were on the shelf already, ready to go.
Yeah, they
They
just
didn't have to make something
the
else.
shoulders aren't as quite as square as the next gen ones were.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a different. It is a different pattern, but it's it's more in line with that Next Gen Deep Space Nine sort of era.
Yeah.
But these are so there's Admiral Valdor, I think, is the one guy, and then there's this other scientist guy. Whose name I don't know, Nigel or something. And so they're gonna be here for all three parts. They're kind of the bad guys, and then there's this other like Romulan senator who will show up with some remans here and there. But yeah, so there's one's the admiral, one's the scientist, and they got this pilot, and they're kind of pulling the strings, and they see that the Earth ship, well, us Enterprise has found them. They're looking at this ship, not sure what to make of it at all. I did like this kind of plot because they, at this point that they were concerned with keeping with canon and maintaining that, no human will see a Romulan until the Balance of Terror in original series, which is 100 years from now. So the Romulans are going to be always in the scenes. They're kind of know the Romulans are the antagonists, but they're never actually going to get to see them face to face, which is kind of an interesting thing to be kind of saddled with as a writer, I guess, with how you're going to deal with your antagonists, but that's what they're doing. So so Trip and Malcolm beam over to this Marauder with two Makos who end up really doing nothing over there, but I guess and so once they beam over, the ship starts moving and flying around, even attacking Enterprise. And they're not able to beam them back. All the crew are they're all getting thrown around because I guess there's no inertial dampeners on this ship, because why would they need them? So they're all getting thrown around, and so they beam out the Makos first, but then of course the transporter blows up, and there's a battle that takes place, and so eventually Archer has to retreat. He can't beat this thing. So, but even though Trip and Malcolm are still on board, so they.
At this point, Dave, they've also now got 3 power signatures of the same ship.
Yeah, the mystery's over, but to me, but but not to them yet. So, but and they were trying to destroy them. The Romulans were trying to destroy them outright, but luckily Enterprise was just slightly faster at warp once they really pushed the engine, so they got away. But Archer didn't like that he had to run away, especially from when his 2 of his guys are over there. So he's kind of beaten for the moment. Over on the ship itself, Malcolm gets his air tube caught on something, and he loses a bunch of air really quickly. So Trip gives him some of his, but
you figure over all the years there'd be some kind of safeguard for those tubes.
Nope.
They're always coming loose.
They're always coming loose, and you're always losing a bunch of air, and then you got to figure something out. It's every time they're in these suits. And Malcolm and Trip will stay in these suits for the next little while. Eventually,
I think he said it was 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah, it's 3 days in total. Yeah, we see at one point that they start opening the oxygen. He's like, "Here you go, pure oxygen," and he puts that into Malcolm's air thing, and I'm like, first of all, we don't breathe pure oxygen, so that's probably not a good idea. Air is mostly nitrogen with 30% oxygen or something. It could even be quite flammable, pure oxygen, but I digress. The Romulans see them opening up tubes and hatches and on the surveillance, and they're like, we need to do something about these humans on our ship, right? A couple of rats on our little holographic ship.
We don't know yet that they're not on the same ship.
Right. Yeah. There's kind of this reveal. Cool. We're led to believe that they're on the bridge, and we're they're just somewhere here on the ship. So they just start flying around just to throw around Trip and Malcolm quite a bit. They magnetize their boots, but I don't know. That would be enough.
It's no, it wouldn't be enough. You're getting a broken leg or hip or something as you're flying around.
Yeah. The amount of inertia you have, your boots aren't staying. If you can lift the boot off with just your leg, it's not staying while you're going at warp or impulse.
If this ship is going at the speed of light or even near the speed of light, that's a lot of G-force, even to put on anything, right? Yeah, so it's, but I don't know. We like to believe that the Magnum boots save them. Archer and them, they're kind of regrouping here. So back to Enterprise. There's a scene here in the ready room with Archer and T'Pol. Is that where they talk about that this could be that the power signature of the ship was kind of Romulan? Is this where I don't know if this is here?
So, yeah.
I think this is the scene where she's like, it could be Romulans, and he's like,
Yeah,
well,
she says it's a remote possibility.
that the Romulans,
Yeah.
but we don't. But they don't know anything. Even as a Vulcan, she doesn't know anything about the Romulans.
But she's talking about about Minefield.
Right, but we know that the Romulans know more about the Vulcans than vice versa at this point in history. It seems like. And back on the ship, they find the gas. I don't know if my screenshots are in order. Eventually, the Tellarites decide that, or sorry, not the Tellarites, the Andorians decide that they have to try, Shran and them have to try to get revenge for what's happened, right? So we see with the scene here with the with Tala, she's being all seductive, sexy Andorian girlfriend, just like in Lower Decks. But this Mako, he can't be tempted by her, and then eventually it turns into a fist fight.
The weirdest fight scene I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was pretty bizarre.
Yeah. It was kind of weird. Yeah. Even Shran thought so. He's like, that was kind of weird. So they have, and then they like start crawling through the tube. They shoot a couple Makos, and whatever. They eventually, barge into the Tellarites' quarters and hold them right at gunpoint. They're figuring out more about the on the bridge. Archer and them are figuring out more about this Marauder and how it works and how it can do all the holograms and stuff, and it's different things. Here we got Shran being, holding them at gunpoint and holding the Tellarites at gunpoint, demanding that they admit their role in this this affair and all the bad stuff. He's like, I can shoot right through your hide, your thick hide. Meanwhile, the Makos are trying to retake it along with Archer. Archer being, last action hero.
When he said that right through your thick hide, that I love that, because of course a species that insults each other all the time would have a thick skin.
Right.
Yes.
And he also happens to, have that pig sort of thing. So eventually, like Archer comes in and like says, I can prove that this is all a conspiracy. You're both being set up to fight each other here. And eventually Shran kind of backs down after, they're kind of diffusing the situation. But then as they're letting down, this Tellarite guy, who's not the ambassador, he's like the aide to the ambassador, he grabs the gun and he shoots her in the shoulder. Even though the incident was down. Although I blame Shran completely for this death. He got her killed.
He took her gun that was on kill.
Yeah, her gun was on kill, but even so, like Shran put her in this situation. Like, he should have not tried to do what he did here at all. And so I think he's definitely, like, she made her choice too, but she was following orders technically. So, and so it's merely a flesh wound, we're told, though, initially. Back on the we see here where Malcolm and Trip then eventually get to what is the bridge.
I love this, though, is very reminiscent of original series. This kind of circular bridge.
Yeah.
Where everything kind of happens in the middle of the room.
Right. Like there's kind of like a almost like Doctor Who kind of like TARDIS. Yeah. And so we see here that Malcolm and Trip can't find the Romulans on the bridge because they're not there. We see that this pilot with this helmet on, we'll find out is the Aenar guy, but we don't know that yet. And then we get this like pullback reveal where we find out, they're not on the ship at all. They are actually on Romulus.
This is very cool. I really like this.
Yeah. Which we got to see this in Star Trek Nemesis only a few years before this, because that movie's 2002 and this is 2005. So it wasn't even quite 3 years. So they had like these, I guess this even created already, maybe the digital model. So you get to see them pulling back, and we see Romulus, which RIP. They hadn't destroyed it yet, though. It hadn't been destroyed in that won't happen until the 2009 movie. So now we're in part 2. Now we're in part 2, which is called United. The Romulans continuing their devious schemes, and their underhanded plots, as you would,
You wouldn't know a scheme from a conspiracy.
Don't make me scoff. Your plans are barely even schemes.
That's right. Your plans are barely even schemes. Always sneaky, those Romulans. Trip back on here. Oh yeah, so eventually, the Romulans decide they're going to attack another target too, because this is all to destabilize the region, to get all Tellurite against Andorian, Andorian against human, whatever, right? And so now they're attacking Rigelians, who we know will become one of the early members of the Federation. They're not a founding member, but they do eventually join. And so they're let's attack, but here, use this configuration. We see them attacking, and look who's attacking the Rigelians. It's good old NX-01 attacking, and boom, 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 and Star Trek Enterprise. Now we're into part 2.
Been
a long day. So United, they're talking about the Rigelian ship that had been destroyed. That they're demanding Archer's arrest and compensation from Earth Command. So the diplomats are all demanding things and things like that. And we see, there's the video evidence. Enterprise attacked.
So I think is this Archer's first real diplomatic journey, or mission?
Well, really, his first mission was when he brought that Klingon home. That was kind of his first diplomatic mission. But
you're really getting to see how captains are so important, because they're definitely out there and have to be the diplomats.
Well, yeah, I just think ambassadors aren't on the front line. Well, that was always interesting about Babylon 5, which was that in that show, all the other species had their alien ambassadors except for Earth, which sent a captain. So we didn't have an ambassador. Anyway, it's not about Babylon 5. It's a great show. You should definitely check it out. But anyway, so I guess they've invented their own way to detect the drone ship, the Marauder, with this sensor network. If they get 130 ships together and they get them to all work together, they can create a little net and then hopefully suss it out. But Archer is a little daunted by that prospect of getting that many ships together. Back in sickbay, we see here that Tran is with Tala, who is pretty rough after being shot in the previous episode. He's telling her she's going to be okay. Hold on. Phlox eventually shows up and sort of shoos him away.
Yeah, this was a really nice scene. This is what you were talking about, Adam, right? He really sells this here, that you really believe that he's in pain because she's dying, right?
I think they could have explained why she was dying a little better, but I mean, I guess we knew. But the point being,
I wasn't clear on it. She said she got an infection from being shot in the arm. Just cut off the arm.
No, I thought it was almost like a disruptor, that they're she's slowly disintegrating or something. But then when they showed her dead, she didn't look bad at all. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Well, yeah. How
she
dies
says it's what phaser or phase
infection
pistol something can do to Andorians specifically, not to other people. That's what. So she says to Andorians.
So this is an Andorian weakness,
I guess.
Sick bay Shrant. Yeah, he says, "Oh, this Denobulan doctor loves you too much. He won't let you go home."
And then he says, "I'm jealous." That was really touching at that.
He says, although Talos was only grazed, the phase pistol that Narg shot her with was set to kill. Talos is outraged at the Tellurite. He's worried about the severity of the wound. Shran reassures her that she will be well again and they will be back soon in their homeworld.
So implying that if they got home, she would have been taken care of.
Yeah, but she's like, if I die, don't let me die unavenged. That is not cool. So you must avenge me. He's like, don't you worry, I will. Okay, and so the Reeves Stevens wrote the teleplay with Manny Cotto reading the story. David Livingston directed this one. Anyway, so Shran's pissed. He's still mad at all the Tellurites, even though he kind of knows that they didn't necessarily attack his ship. Archer's still trying to short that out. Sometimes just the looks here from Phlox are really good. You know, he doesn't always have a ton of lines, but sometimes his looks are really powerful. Back on Romulus, we got Admiral Valdor. He's talking to this Romulan senator who's not happy about the exposure and them figuring out what's happening. That this is a risky plan. He's giving him a hard time. The admiral. We see a couple of his Riemann security guards as well along the way. Just a reference to Nemesis, I guess. Like we have this makeup and these costumes, so we're going to use them. But I wasn't necessarily excited to see Riemann's.
No.
Anyway,
it surprised me, but
again,
happy
for all the people that never saw Nemesis, they didn't do any explanation what they are.
yeah, you would have no clue. So they're just assuming you've seen Nemesis. I also have to point out that this Romulan Valdor guy, he is the ugliest Romulan I've ever seen. Like this guy, like he is a hideous chud of a Romulan. I gotta tell you. But anyway, most Romulans.
I feel like we've seen him before, though.
I think he's been in a lot of stuff. That actor, he just doesn't quite feel.
I recognize his voice.
Brian Thompson's his name. He's played a bunch of different roles. He played a Klingon.
It's also the mouth. Like he's got that.
Yeah, he's played different like characters under makeup before, I believe. Anyway, I think this might be the scene next here where Archer and T'Pol are talking. I think this might be where she talks about the Romulans being a possibility. And they're also talking about the sensor network, how many ships the Vulcans can send, how many ships the Tellarites can send, how they're going to get these species to work together. That's also a big part of the conversation. Back on the Marauder, we also had more with Trip and Malcolm trying to break into the bridge and into the systems and figure things out. Meanwhile, back on Enterprise,
You know,
yeah.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
One thing there is that as they're like tallying up everybody's contribution into this Armada, Earth's got one ship, the other one's in space dock and can't leave right now. Earth is a small player right now.
Very small player, even though we seem to be like the coordinator and bringing people together to the party. We're sending one ship, not even two. It's just like
this will be a theme that goes through all of Star Trek. There's never any ships around.
Never any ships. We never have any ships, or they're not fast enough, or whatever. So it's just what it goes.
They're always in the Laurentian, whatever.
Yeah, the Laurentian. They're in the Laurentian system.
Somehow we became the dominant power in the quadrant with no ships.
Yeah, we're spread thin. We get another session here of Shran and the Tellarite ambassador yelling at each other, saying that they're going to kill each other. And eventually, like in this scene, Archer is not as concerned about playing peacemaker. He's like, "Go ahead, I'm not going to stop you from tearing each other apart." You were waiting for me to put you down, but he's like, "You're both being played. You're both being idiots. And you want to listen to me, I can help you." He gives a speech that I think is pretty good in this one.
Yep.
He talks about the sensor network, how it's going to be needed to, track down this imposter ship and prove what's happening here. And they're listening. They're like, they're willing to kind of they want a solution to this problem too. So they're trying to figure it out. And so they actually do start working together. Back on the Marauder with Malcolm and Trip, they're trying still to break into this bridge. They've taken off their helmets. They got atmosphere going, so they wouldn't have to wear the helmets all the time, but they had to keep wearing the suit. They start trying to get the warp power off. The Romulan guys notice, and is this where I don't think they start talking to them right away. But there's this part where Trip goes into the other chamber to try to bring it down, and then they wait for him to go in there. And once he gets in there, they basically close the door on him. Here it comes. Yeah, boop. Kevin's audio only now. This is where the Romulan reveals himself. He's like, "You're going to help bring that warp back on, or I'm going to kill him with the radiation."
The radiation. Yeah.
Yeah. I did like this. I think that the voice of this Romulan guy, he was really strong. And he's like, listen, never explains who he is or what they're doing, right? And so as a lot of villains would. So there's like, we're gonna burn you to death, Trip, with this green radiation. Back to that soon. On Enterprise, we see her. Shran gives these command codes to Archer. So that the fleet can coordinate. He's like, well, I'm gonna have to give these to the Tellarites too. He's like, whatever, do what you have to. He's like, did you serve on all these ships? Like pointing at the pictures on the wall. He's like, well, some of them are before my time, like that one's like from
400 years,
years ago and stuff. He's like, oh yeah, my ship's named after an old ship too. Isn't that cool? Maybe they'll name ships after us one day. They actually will. But because they kind of feel like bringing the species together in this alliance could mean something, so they Archer already kind of knows the result. He's already seen the future, but Shren's just kind of speculating. So they're getting along. Back here, Trip's getting slowly turned into a fried green tomato under these things. Eventually he tells Malcolm, don't help him. Trip's just trying to like rip things out, everything, so that nothing will work anymore, and hopefully the radiation will stop kill him. Reed is just trying to blast through with his phase pistol to no regard. And eventually he agrees to start helping the Romulans fix the ship so that Trip won't die. Trip's ordering him not to. Back on Enterprise, we had this scene here where they're getting ready to launch the thing, but then Archer gets called down to sickbay. And there's this dramatic moment where we realize Talos has died. The camera's spinning all around Jeffrey Combs, and it's quite dramatic.
Yeah, and again, I think that this again is just a very strong scene here because you see him react, and then he gets in with her and starts actually crying. I mean, it's he's so good, like he's just so believable.
Yeah,
and then the rage right from here on after.
Yeah, he's very distraught. It's very believable. It's a great performance. And then he's like, I promised her she would not go unavenged. I have to do that. So back to the Marauder. Trip's slowly getting cooked by this radiation. He starts to pass out. So Malcolm starts doing things, we're told. He brings it online. Down here in the mess hall, the Tellarites are talking to Archer, and then Shran shows up. And he's like, "I'll be cool. I'm just here to be nice. Don't worry. I'm totally not gonna. I just want to talk and be cool. Don't worry." So he starts jumping in here, and he starts talking to these Tellarites, and he starts like, "Oh, well, I got to take some of her blood back to the ice, right?" And he's walking around this guy. Hey, Jody.
Hey, sorry about that. It looks like my laptop blew a stick of RAM.
Uh-oh.
Well, nice thing about being in IT, you always have extra.
That's good. So we're just into part 2 now, Jody.
Yes, you're very far away.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I love this 3-parter. This is a great one.
Yeah. We're at the scene here where he's like, I collected some of her blood, Talos, who just died. And he's like, I want you to see it, and then he pours it over this guy's hands, and then he's like, you murderer.
Yeah, Shran's amazing.
And then Archer's like, you told me you were going to be cool. Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, after this, we don't see Shran again until the last episode. So
we don't?
Nope. This is it.
I guess Archer.
You got to remember, we're like almost 3/4 of the way through the.
Oh, you mean after this 3-parter?
After this 3-parter, we only see him in the finale.
I thought you meant after the scene. I was like,
oh no. He's in the whole.
He's in the 3rd part quite a bit. Anyway, here we see that Trip is getting cooked by this Romulan radiation. Malcolm was trying to fix the systems in time to, and eventually he opens the door, and they're like, whatever, let them go. He gets their helmets back on. I guess we've got the helmet on. It will protect you from the radiation. presumably. And then we see here that Malcolm has left his phase pistol on overload, and it's a really like long build up here. We're waiting for this thing to blow up. It takes a good couple of minutes of the episode. Malcolm's like, well, we should try to get out of this room because that thing's about to blow up. So we should try to get this open. But he doesn't explain it right away to Trip. But eventually, we're going, cut back, cut forward. Yes, the gun will blow up. Yes, the gun will blow up. And then it
Maybe
will blow up. Like I'm done. Like this is like literally how many
Yeah.
cuts we got back and forth. Well,
Yeah, there's like 5 cuts on this one.
it's like there's a gun. There's a gun. I'm like, blow up already, and then it does. We see that
you guys like the idea of this hollow ship
yeah, like it's
thing?
kind of cool.
I really like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a neat concept. Like I guess why wouldn't a lot of species have remote control chips? Because I guess the biggest challenge would be subspace. Like,
Well, and if you
communication.
think about when these episodes aired, this was during essentially the Iraq War, the second one, and
right in the heat of it,
and recon ships were like the rage.
drones
right?
were becoming more and more.
Drones
of
were a
thing.
huge thing at this
Right.
point,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so it makes like a lot of sense, especially with the whole backstory of the Romulans never having been seen by the humans until way later. So,
and I'm sorry if I'm cutting into stuff that you guys have already covered, but how'd you guys feel about the reveal that this was actually a probe ship? Like they
I
show
loved
all
how
this
they
when
did
it's
it.
Romulus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah,
I
no,
love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, because you think that our heroes are gonna get the jump on them in the bridge, and then they're not there at all. And
Did Dave take a second to say bad things about Nemesis?
not too much.
Oh, okay.
Not really.
We're just saying if nobody saw Nemesis, they might be confused about who those Remans were.
Yeah, that would be a little confusing for people.
I don't think they needed to do that. But I think you're right, Dave. They just had some costumes laying around, and they probably said, "Let's slap them on somebody."
Yeah,
Somebody
throw,
will get
throw a
The
couple
budget-
Remans.
The budget's pretty good on these 3 episodes, though. There's a lot of stuff in this.
Yeah, fair bit.
So Jody,
Yeah.
just one of the things that I said it right at the top is that after this episode aired, they actually announced the cancellation of Enterprise
Yes.
because it had like only 2.5 million watched it.
Yeah, the crew already knew that they were done on this season, but they
Yeah.
didn't actually formally announce it yet. Yeah.
I'm going to make an argument that Daedalus killed the show specifically. They watched.
It
that.
wasn't a good episode.
Yeah. So
Nemesis doesn't suck,
awful.
Sam, just so you know.
Well, I think it sucks, Sam. So
None of you are right.
it's
I also
okay,
don't enjoy it.
so Shran has challenged the Tellarite
with
to
you.
to a duel to the death. The
Nemesis
Ushan,
has the best cold open of any movie, though. But anyway.
perhaps. Let's talk about the Ushan. The duel that Shran is thing where you have to go with these ice miner pick things. I guess Kevin, what do you think of all this?
I liked it. I liked Archer taking his place and making him try to kill him. I don't like the weapon. I think the fight looks stupid.
Oh, it's totally stupid. Yeah, but I think that's kind of the point. Like, I think that's the reason why Archer was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Like, it's yeah, okay, you're coming at me with an ice pick. Okay,
It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be like an ice miner's pick. It's not supposed to necessarily be a weapon, but it is a weapon. But
Well,
I feel
it's-
like Shran should keep this sharpened all the time. Like he shouldn't need to sharpen it just before the.
he says he carries it wherever he goes. So this was already on his person when he beamed aboard.
but they also mentioned that like Andorians, when they're like little, play with these things. Like
Right.
this is
Yeah.
like the equivalent of like a slingshot when you're a kid, right? Like everybody had one, and
I did
Yeah, I
like
guess
them
so.
being tied together with those gauntlets.
Yeah.
It was just all so silly.
It was like a Texas strap match,
Shran is fantastic in these episodes, though.
Well,
He
I like what,
is. This is the one thing I didn't really enjoy was this whole story. This challenge and blah blah blah. It didn't.
It felt like filler. It really did.
Yeah.
feel
Well, they
like
had to
filler,
get
but-
to cutting off the antenna, which was gold.
Yeah, I love
Like,
that.
he had no
It's
balance.
gonna take like 9 months to grow that back.
he's like, you can half that with some therapy. Um, There's more of these Romulans tossing them around. Okay, and then like Archer's reading like the rules of the Ushan and what he can do. How
I think the whole crew gets into it, Dave. The whole crew.
The whole crew's like, yeah, I researched it. Like, T'Pol thinks it's stupid. And you need to get out. Yeah. Although the Vulcans love like their combat to the death.
Yeah.
Only when it's
like they're not even using Lirpas. This is for children.
Like,
yeah.
We're in season 4 now, and I still don't think I could make a list of things that she actually likes
or approves of.
Yeah, like everything is like, the Science Academy said no, or
this
or
is
like
dumb.
ice comets are stupid.
She likes Trip.
She likes Trip. Yeah,
not enough to keep him around.
Nope, you're right.
Breaks his heart every week. So I don't know what to do with her. I think that anyway. So yeah, a lot of looks here between these two. And so Hoshi is trying to find a legal loophole under T'Pol's orders, like trying to read all of the rules of the Ushan. Mayweather comes along, saying, "What you doing, Hoshi?" And she's like, "I don't know. It's gonna probably take me forever."
Giving you a reason to talk, Mayweather.
Yeah. He's like, "Well, I could help you read all this, and it would go twice as fast." I'm like, "What a novel idea!"
Yeah.
Like let's put 2 people on it.
But does anybody get the impression that Mayweather knows Andorian? Like,
he doesn't need to. You can see it right in there. It's translated on the screen.
Oh, there is a translation. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. And what are the rules? It says
Code of the Ushan.
Yeah, religious deferment, ancestral exceptions, sitting proxy or something. I don't know. I'm not going to read it all, but so they team up here, guys. Mayweather and Hoshi, and he's like, "What if Captain Archer got married, with no living descendants or something like that?" And she's like, "No, it won't work. They'll call foul." But then eventually they find the rules of the combat, which I guess it's Mayweather who finds the cut off the antenna loophole, or just
Yeah, you get the impression he does anyway.
Yeah, because you don't have to kill somebody to death. You just have to put them to the point where they can't continue, or something like that.
And the antenna gives them balance or something, right?
Incapacity.
Yeah. My favorite is all of those pads on the table, knowing now that all of those documents would fit in one pad.
Right. No, we have to have many.
To see them all over the table, it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
The best thing about it is it has a track wheel, but they use it as a touchscreen. I don't get that.
As both.
You gotta have options.
You have options. I really like this next scene too, where this is like the little pep talk Archer's getting before he goes into the duel, and like Hoshi's like, "You gotta use it like this," and especially when he goes to like the Tellarite, he's like, "You gotta dig, you gotta go down." He was like almost like Jeff Probst on Survivor,
Tells him to cut his head off.
You gotta cut his head off.
I know I missed it, but you guys must have talked about how Archer talked to him, right? At the beginning of the first episode. Yeah, that was awesome.
Even Flox has some pointers and what to avoid.
What's so interesting here is that like when you're going around that circle, it was almost like that 70s show, when they're going.
Yeah.
You wait for somebody to be high. Yeah.
They were just passing the spliff around, so they're like, cut his head off.
But why this guy is there? That was kind of funny,
So. His participation in this little rally is great. So you have to wear like a gauntlet on one hand, and then it's tied to the other guy. That's like the rules of the shot. And T'Pol has to play like referee, in the situation too, which is kind of fun. Shran completely, he's like, "I'm going to have to kill you, man. But don't worry. I'm going to get you a plaque on the Hall of Heroes back on Andor. I'm going to keep working with your people.
Blood there, man. I'm taking your blood.
I'm taking your blood to the ice, just like with Talos. But yeah, you're totally dead. I'm totally killing you because that's the rules." Right? So and he's like, "Oh yeah, let's see." And so the fight itself, Kevin already gave his opinion. It was kind of I was okay.
It was dumb, but it was funny.
Archer gets, he starts off by getting his butt kicked. I mean, he's bleeding all over the place.
Yeah.
Right. But he says he's just doing that for show.
Well, Shran is clearly a better fighter than Archer is. Like, no.
This is clearly not Scott Bakula, by the way. Too.
That is definitely not Scott Bakula.
Yeah. A lot of it is. And so that one just.
I remember this was the first Star Trek series to get shot in HD, so you would have saw that even in broadcast.
Yeah, no, yeah. I just happened to get that screenshot in the process, and then like, oh, stuntman. But you only see it in the freeze frame. So yeah, they're going back and forth. Although it's all right. I'm okay with this. It's almost like a.
I'm glad it didn't run that long though. Like, this whole fight scene isn't that long. It's like maybe 3 minutes max.
He keeps cutting.
I'm always happy when any fight scene is over.
Yeah.
I'm not a big
especially
fan
in
of
Star
them,
Trek.
So when they're kept short, I'm always happy.
I like fight scenes, but they can be too long too.
There's not that many great fight scenes in Star Trek though.
No.
No, not really.
Not that I remember anyway.
I guess this might be one of them. Yeah, it's not a show known for battles or anything like not that kind of battle. I guess some of the stuff with like Jadzia and Worf and like
there was some
fighting Jemadars, that was pretty good. Yeah. Anyway, so he's like, you think I'm going easy on you, or you think you're winning? I'm just making you look good. Eventually, Archer manages to like get the jump on him, even throws, gets behind him and starts striking. He's like, "Do you yield? You give up?" He's like, "Never."
Look at that neck there. I thought that scene was so. Look at that neck.
Yeah.
They probably have like a prosthetic on them, so that way they can get that close. Yeah.
Yeah.
I go with that.
So humans and Andorians have to be kind of similar strength, right? For us to,
I don't think Star Trek has ever really said anything different. Yeah.
Right. So then he's like, "You yield," and then he's like, "Never." And then we think he's gonna cut his head off, like the Tellarite guy told him to. But then we cut over to sickbay, and he's just cut the antenna off.
The best thing about it is it's like literally like his whole manhood is gone now. He's just he's like, my antenna is gone.
It's like you cut one of his balls off. Right?
I am just not a man anymore, basically.
It would have been great if he had just woken up, looked at him, and went, "You should have killed me."
Yeah. Or he did like a Joker in like 89 Batman where he like picks up the mirror and he's like, "Ah!" And
just starts laughing and breaking mirrors. That'd be hilarious.
That would have been awesome too.
He kind of says he's so humiliated by this and whatever. Then we see him like stumbling around. Yeah, he can't quite balance himself without it. That was hilarious. He's looking.
Well, somebody who has inner ear issues, I completely agree with that statement. It is right. Yes.
Yeah, so I guess it works the same way for Andorians. Yeah, and so
that's
he's like
version of an inner ear.
But he's all happy. He's like, "You observed Andorian tradition, Archer. That was cool. Now we can get back to the mission."
The one thing I did, the nice little touch I liked is because you know how I always think that the antennas are fantastic in the show. Like they have the mechanical things built in, so they can control the remote. But did you notice that the antenna that's broken only moves slightly, where the other one moves normal?
Yes.
I'm like, that's pretty awesome.
Right.
Yeah, but here's the thing again. Like, so Shran was about to like derail the whole conference, all the peace efforts.
Yes, because he's Shran, and that's what he does.
And then he loses. Okay, let's get back to business.
Okay, like this is a guy who was torturing Soval like quite a bit a couple episodes ago. This is a guy who broke into the Tellarite ambassador's quarters, held him at gunpoint, got his first officer killed, challenged this fight. Like, as much as Shran is a good guy, he is a problematic ally sometimes.
You never know where he's going to go.
Yeah,
he runs with his emotions, which I think is interesting for a Star Trek character, because not all of them do. Like a lot of them are just like fight for the Empire, that kind of thing. And
the Andorians are usually humans are usually portrayed in Star Trek as being very emotional, at least compared to Vulcans. But the Andorians are even more emotional than humans.
Oh, they're really emotional. They're like they're a train wreck. Like especially when like his first officer gets nailed because like he was courting her as well, right? So he's like he's like obviously he loved her or whatever.
He mated with her, Jody.
Yes, he mated
really
with her.
Creepily.
Well, it was either he had to mate her or he had to do something else,
or had to discipline her. Which would have, whatever. Back here on the bridge. Okay, now we can get back to the mission. Let's get the sensor network going. Let's see if we can detect the.
They're not using the battle bridge though. Like they're not using that
command center
room. Yeah, they're not using the command center.
Command center. It's only season 3. There was
one. We saw command center.
We saw one scene, but like they're not. It's clearly like with the Xindi crisis over, it's not a place they like to go too much anymore. So
they don't need it.
The Romulans, what are they up to here? Oh yeah, so they start attacking. Oh yeah, they disguise their ship as a Vulcan ship. Inside,
have you seen the Aenar yet?
No, that comes at the end of this episode.
It's the end of this episode. Okay.
Yeah, so setting up, and then Vulcans, and then Shred's like, "Those are Vulcans." I'm with you, Archer. I know, I might have no antenna, but
He's like, you had to chop off my antenna before I decided to like focus on what we're supposed to be doing. But
yeah,
you know,
right. So the Romulans are going on here. Oh yeah, and the senator shows up. He's like, "I know you're screwing up. I know that you've been detected." And then he looks over at his guys, and he's like, he's like, I got a man on the inside here." And he's like, "Well, you know that we're about to destroy them, then, right?" He's like, "Well, then proceed." I don't know if I'm supposed to care about the Romulan admiral like getting shit from the senator or not.
I
But
don't care.
yeah.
I like how they always have that one kind of like Neanderthal looking Romulan. Have you ever noticed that? They always have one.
He's got a very big jaw, this guy.
Yeah, massive.
The main guy, the main
jaw.
villain guy. Yeah, I said he
Yeah.
was the ugliest Romulan I've ever seen. Anyway, so then we get the Earth is the Enterprise is attacking this, but not the Vulcan ship. It is the Marauder, which we get to see it like it doing all these like flips and moving super fast through space. That's not something we see a ton in Star Trek.
That's true.
They're flying around.
I like the idea though that it can emulate the weapons as well as the ship. So it's like that's a pretty neat idea.
Yeah, and it's so fast that
Perfect
it's hard to
ship for
destroy.
your schemes.
Yeah, for your schemes. Your schemes are barely
it's a good
blocked.
scheming ship.
Yeah.
I am already betraying him, and my plans will come to fruition first.
Yes, they're always trying to out betray each other. Those Romulans. So yeah, they're while Trip and Malcolm are inside the ship with no inertial dampeners, they're just getting thrown around. They would definitely be dead, but yeah.
Well, you got to remember though, they're also in environmental suits, and the environmental suits would have some protection built in.
I don't know.
I think so.
Not for the oxygen supply.
No. Yeah. I do like their solution here. They're like, well, they just eventually jump out of it. They're like,
fuck it, we'll just jump.
They just open the hatch and they just jump out of the plane basically and into space.
It reminded me of that scene in which one? The really terrible remake Star Trek, Into Darkness, where they're jumping from the one ship to the other. They're jumping to the Dreadnought.
Oh yeah.
They have to like basically jump straight. I'm like, this is ridiculous. But
and Khan's all good at it.
Yeah.
Kirk's not as good. And then we see here, like while Malcolm and Trip are kind of floating in space, that the Vulcans, the Tellarites, and the Andorians all show up in a united fleet, and then we see them like kind of chase after the Marauder, who then escapes. So then they warp along in pursuit, and then eventually they're like, we got left here, Malcolm. We're gonna die out here in space, I guess. And then
must be 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Must be 9 o'clock for Adam.
Adam always drops at 9 o'clock and then he comes back.
9:10. Yeah. So then
he'll be on his phone now, though.
Pretty much. Archer then says, "You need a lift," and he beams them up.
I do like that view though. I liked how they did that. That was pretty cool.
From the beaming,
just seeing that massive hull all of a sudden show up, and then they beam them in.
Malcolm complains about having to wear his helmet for so long.
And then it wouldn't be Star Trek Enterprise without Malcolm whining about something.
No. And then there's this whole scene here where Trip says, "I'm going to have to write you up for a reprimand for disobeying my orders and saving me from that Romulan." He's like, "I saved your life. I saved your life." He's like, just kidding. I'm not going to write a reprimand." I'm like, "You should. This man should never get a command." I totally would have. I would not give him this man.
Reprimand his ass. Keep him where he is.
He did disobey an order in a time of war. Perhaps.
But I like how Trip almost looks like he's tripping balls at this point. He's just like, yeah, I'm pretty high from all that weird oxygen mixture I just had for like 3 hours.
Yeah. 3 days in a suit.
Yeah.
Oh, well. And then we see, and we come to the end of this episode where, Shran's looking out from the mess hall towards all of like the Vulcans and the Andorians and the Tellarites all working together. There he is on his phone, as you predicted.
See, I told you, 9 o'clock, he goes to his phone.
Yeah. And the final scene here in the conference room where, the Andorians and the Tellarites, they start the conference early. Let's just start it here. We don't have to get to Babel. We can just do it here on the ship. And we get the handshake here between the Andorian and Shran and the Tellarate ambassador. And here we guys got the beginnings of the Federation. The seed is planted here. The 4 founding members represented in this particular
Actually,
shot.
I never even included into the fact that these are actually the 4 founding members. Realistically,
you're missing the Vulcans.
No, T'Pol's there.
No,
T'Pol's there.
Paul's
Of
there.
course.
Yeah.
I never think T'Pol is a Vulcan, right? Of course.
Yes, T'Pol is a Vulcan.
She is a Vulcan. She doesn't act like him all the time, but she is.
Yeah. And then we pull away. I like how that we pull back from the shot here and we get to see this
Very
whole
cool
fleet.
shot.
And I was like, well, Enterprise should have just stuck with this fleet until this crisis is over. This was a little bit of the disappointment I had in the next episode. Because all this kind of goes away.
Everybody just kind of goes their own way.
They disband. I'm like, the crisis isn't over yet, guys. Like, where are you going?
Yeah, you still got that ship running around.
Right. Back on Romulus is the final scene, and we get the reveal of the pilot who's been controlling the drone. We've never seen this guy before. He looks like an Andorian, but he's not blue. What the heck's going on?
And I think this is the first time they introduced the fact that there is separate subspecies. Yeah.
Yeah, this has never been set up before. So we got an Aenar, a white-looking Andorian. All right, so now we're into the third
Andorians
episode.
that are on ice planets or something like that.
They're all an ice planet. Like the whole.
Well,
planet's
actually,
an ice planet.
Andor's an ice planet.
Yeah, but it's colder, I guess, where the Aenar live, or they live further into the ice, or something.
I think they live underground or something. Yeah.
They all live underground, but I guess I don't know.
I don't know.
They said that with the regular Andorians, they get a couple months above 0, or a couple weeks above when it's above 0.
Oh, okay.
In the heat of summer.
I don't know. After winter, I kind of look like that guy too, so I get it.
Yeah. So to start off the next episode, the senator is giving the Romulan admiral a hard time, saying this is going to bring us all down if we don't clean this up. We were supposed to be destabilizing these species. Now they're coming together and working together. This sucks, And so I don't know. That's kind of an interesting teaser. Again, I'm not invested in this Romulan success. So this Romulan intrigue with themselves.
I'm not even sure why they needed the teaser on this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just to kind of remind us what was going on, because these episodes did air 3 weeks apart, of course. So
yeah, and that would have pissed me off. Like, I'm pretty sure I saw these when they came out, and I'm sure I would have been pissed off because they were getting really good after those first 2 cuts. Like the end of the first episode, you're like, you definitely want more. And then at the end of this episode, we get to see the Aenar. So
yeah, but I don't know if you were pissed. I think that's the way it was. You just took it. I mean, that's
Well, you did, yeah.
I gotta fix his. So
Fix
loud.
what?
His mic is so loud, Adam. So
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
Excited.
I'll talk.
no,
quiet.
I just adjusted. I just adjusted it on my side. So okay, there we go. So,
you, Adam.
Yeah.
Hey, one fun fact from that last episode was the first time that T'Pol called Travis Mayweather Travis.
Is it the only time?
Really?
Oh yeah, because she always refers to him by his last name.
Or Ensign.
Or Ensign, yeah.
So, guys, we're in this first scene of the third episode, the Aenar, where Phlox reveals that I've scanned the brainwaves of the pilot of the Marauder, and it's no match, but it's closest to Andorian.
Dun,
So
dun.
we all look at Shran. What does this mean? So they start working with the government. Back on Romulus.
That's a menacing screenshot right there.
A menacing Romulan right there. Yeah.
Yeah, they are going to meet at the bathhouse.
See, now there's the Neanderthal Romulan. There's always one.
Yes. Oh well, yeah. He's. I don't know if he's there. They're talking. I can't remember what this conversation was, but whatever.
Doesn't matter, really.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
I like this conversation though.
Is this
He's
one?
like, you served on all these ships?
No, that was in the last
No,
episode.
that was in the last episode.
That was this in this episode. This is more about Shran and Archer talking in the ready room about how they're building. Oh, he starts explaining who the Aenar are. He's like, well, we got this.
That's right.
Yeah, we got the subspecies, and we hadn't even seen them until like 50 years ago. We thought they were a legend, but then they turned out to be real. So we're like, okay, sure. He's like, most Andorians have never even seen one, but that's the who did it. And then I guess they're trying to back down in sickbay. They're trying to build a device to compete with the Romulan, control of the drone ships. So they're trying to build their own scrambler device. And this is where this episode really focuses a lot more here on T'Pol and Trip in this 3-parter, where he's trying to be protective of her, playful with her, but she's not having it. She's newly divorced. She's still got the sting of that, I guess. And she just
and that's what ends up causing Trip to leave, right? Like so.
Well, you see it a couple times in this early scene. He's trying to make connections with her. He's trying to get back to their relationship, but it's not working. She's pushing him away. And by the end of it, you can see he's just like kind of defeated, right?
Yeah.
We actually get to see Andoria. Well, Andor is the gas giant that Andoria orbits around, or Andoria is one of the moons of this gas giant. And so we actually get to see Enterprise arrive there as they go to investigate the Aenar. Shran and Archer beaming down to the planet, and Reed doesn't like it. He's like, take a couple Makos with you,
Well,
So Dave,
in reality, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Sorry, Adam.
coming
Go ahead.
back to the name of the planet, though, this is the first time, because it's been so inconsistent through Star Trek history. So it's being referred to as Andor or Andoria. But the gas giant, I think you just said it, is Andor, and the moon is called Andoria.
Correct. Yes. And so I guess they sorted that out in this episode when they wrote it.
And they live on the moon, right? They don't live.
They live on the moon. One of the moon. Yeah. Right. And so they beam down here. You can kind of see it. So they're on the moon here, and you can see the Andoria gas giant.
Oh, there you are. Yeah.
In the background there. That they orbit around. And sure, I like how Jeffrey Combs and the way this is written for Shred. He's like, this is great, it really gets
He's
the
comfortable
blood
now,
pumping.
right?
But he still needs a coat. Like, he's not impervious to the cold. He's
no, but he's happy in it.
Yeah, we're told he's minus 20. It's minus 26 Celsius,
That's
and it's the middle of summer. He's Archer, because normally in the winter it would probably be minus 40 or even more, and I don't think humans can survive in that for too long. So it's rough. But they're going down into the caves where there's at least less wind chill. They eventually get to this one thing where Archer's like, maybe we should find another way. He's like, well, you're afraid of some heights there, Archer. We'll come back to that. There's a scene back on Romulus in the middle here where it's the Admiral and the scientist talking about how they can't fail. The Admiral talks about how he used to be in the Senate and how he used to he was like, I'm not sure about Romulan conquest. I said to the Senate guys, I was like, do we really need to conquer everything? And then they kicked me out forever and expelled me. Can you believe it? So I will never fail them again. I don't know. Do you guys like that particular subplot? Or did that? Yeah.
I found it odd that they did that to him, and he went the direction of, okay, I will do exactly what I'll be the most awful, loyal, yeah,
Imperial
Weird.
ever. Yeah. They'll never question
what I'd
me.
expect from an ugly fucking chud like that.
Yeah, it is fucking Chud.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was like, whatever, man. And then back on Andoria, we get told about these worms that.
I love this. I thought
these
this was
ice
so neat.
these ice worms that burrow through. They melt the ice chemically or something, and
and they literally fall through and they just keep kind of going.
Yeah,
And they can burn you.
They can burn you.
Might be aliens.
Shran says he got burned as a kid or something like that. Yeah, so this is where they fall down the staircase or whatever, the ice staircase, and Shran takes a big tumble. Eventually, I love how his leg goes right through this big shard of ice. It's just sticking out of the floor. I was like, how did that freeze in that position? But
it could also be an icicle that fell and then
fell down and went. Yeah, maybe.
and
Yeah. So it looks like, of course, Andorian blood is blue, so it's all covered in that.
He's had a rough couple days, this Shran.
Yes.
Yeah, Shred's had a really rough go over these.
He had his ship destroyed, lost most of his crew, lost his girlfriend, got his antenna cut off, got this through his leg.
No wonder why he doesn't show up after these episodes.
Yeah, he needs to recover.
Too busy healing. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like Archer has to like just pull it out of his leg at one point. He's like, and then the Aenar start to appear here. We see them sort of hiding in the background, almost camouflaged with their against like the white ice there.
If they're any whiter, they'd be clear. So
and of course we got to meet on Star Trek Strange New Worlds what's his character's name? Hemmer. Hemmer is an Aenar character, so this is where this whole idea was introduced, and all the Aenar are blind. They're telepathic, but they don't see whatsoever, and so they can't call their ship because
the funny thing is, like halfway through this episode, I'm like, oh wait a second, that's Hemmer. Like it never even occurred to me, and then it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Well, the other thing too about the Aenar is that they're all pacifists. They're compared to the other Endorians,
compared to Shran, yeah,
yeah. The Endorians are very warlike in some ways, like very very militant and willing to fight. Whereas the Aenar are like very much the opposite of that. And so they're like they got an interesting vibe to them. Anyway, they agree to help. And we get to meet this one Aenar who, by the end of this, is like a love interest of Shran. I can't remember her name.
Well, when he was resting on that bed, and she came to him and said, "I've never seen a blue skin before," and it started then. You could see it.
Yeah. So this is like their first meeting, right?
They like I said before, this episode like makes up for all of that horrible lack of emotion in Daedalus.
Yeah. That
episode is just so bad.
It's just a bad episode. Okay, yeah. And then back on Enterprise, Phlox and T'Pol and Trip are working on their new device to control or to at least interfere with the Marauder. Trip's like, because he wants to go in the machine, and then T'Pol points out humans aren't telepathic, so it's not going to work. But Vulcans are telepathic, so I should be the one to do it. He's like, no, you're the ranking officer. You can't be doing it. But he's trying to be protective of her. But she's just pushing him away. Even later on, Phlox will say something to him like, why don't you just let her do her job? And just stop trying to talk her out of stuff. But Trip's not happy. Trip's being a Karen, guys.
Trip be tripping.
Trip be tripping. Even like this look that Phlox has on his face after that conversation, I think is kind of like he's like, ugh.
These species are all terrible.
Yeah, we get to see a little bit
talked about worms.
Yeah, speaking of which, back on Andoria, we get to see what like the underground city that the Enar have looks like.
Cool. Yeah,
it's kind of neat. Yeah, we just get a couple
That's
shots.
One thing about this entire series, like they didn't have a problem with setting the groundwork for other things. Like
right.
they always showed us stuff that we never seen before, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So they're treating Shran's injury. This other Andorian woman, no, Enar, I'm sorry, she's not Andorian, she's Enar. This Enar lady comes in and she's like, whenever there's a crisis, we just pick a leader randomly. And guess what? It's me today. So what do you want to say?
This is a flawless idea.
Right. And he was like, well, they got this whole thing. We found out that this Enar guy was maybe controlling a ship. And, he's like, no Enar would ever willingly control a ship. Eventually, she says, I need to like see into your thoughts, but I need your permission. So he agrees to it, even though Shran gives him like this big, like, don't do it. Like, don't let her read your thoughts. But he goes for it anyway. And then she eventually says, okay, I got to go talk to the others and figure out what we're going to do. Shran has some great looks here. Back on the ship. Okay, there's a scene here where Trip goes gets a coffee, and he kind of just passes past T'Pol in the corridor, and then she goes, "Hey, Trip, are you worried about me? Are you sad I'm going to that machine?" He's like, "Don't worry, it's completely professional." He's getting like detached. He's kind
of pissed off with her, and I get it, but he's also being a big baby.
Right. But he's given up with her, it feels like.
He's given up on this ship, really. Like and we find that out later, but
yeah. Well, on her, more specifically.
Well, it's her, which it causes him to think
want to leave, right? He doesn't want to leave Starfleet. He just wants to leave the ship.
No, he just wants to move, yeah.
get away from her. So then there's this scene here in the dark between the Aenar girl and Shran. You know, he's newly single. He's looking to get somebody new, and
He doesn't wait long though. That boy.
No, so he's this flirt man's begins pretty. It's pretty obvious to me what it is, but they're getting to know each other and talk. And he kind of convinces her to help because, you know, her brother, she explains her brother, who is the one the Romulans have, is, you know, would never do this willingly. You know, he's being coerced. And so, I don't know, it was kind of an interesting conversation. Then we see them bring her brother in back on Romulus, hooking him up to the machine. The Romulan scientist guy does tell us at one point that, you know, that they're pushing him too hard, this Aenar guy, and like, you know, controlling one ship is hard enough, but they want him to control two now. And this,
I think it's also interesting that he's in Romulan clothes too.
Yeah, well, we're told that they abducted him about a year ago or so, and you know, and then we see that T'Pol tries to go into their version of the machine on Enterprise for like a test run, and it doesn't go great. You know, and
does anybody else have a problem with this plan?
Yeah,
it seems a little overdone for what it needs to be. Like, just, you know, maybe just get an armada together and go hunt these ships. Like,
yeah,
I
we really need to go this far.
Lights that look like eyes.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was really stupid too. Like, what bad placement that is.
Right. Which eventually, I don't know. There's this whole test, and it's not working so well for T'Pol. They need it, but what they need is an Aenar. Eventually, the Aenar lady comes back to talk to Archer, but she's like, we can't help you because we're pacifists and we don't want any violence whatsoever. So if you want to fight, we're out. You know, and Shran's like, they don't even want to fight for their world. Let's go. You know, and so, let's go, Jonathan.
Shran is just all about overreacting. I love it.
Yeah, he's not liking these Aenar. Yeah, we see that he's controlling the ship, and now these two and the two drones are now coming out, and they're on the prowl. They're at warp. Sorry, I should know her name. Come on, help me out, guys.
I don't even know it. I have no idea. I never caught it.
Give me a second.
All right, look it up. Her, the young one. So she's leading them around. Oh, she has like some kind of like ESP because she knew these worms were coming through.
I love these worms.
Yeah, she can sense the worms before she even sees them. I guess that's part of her power. Because they don't have eyesight, right? So. She's like, what's your ship? What's your ship like, Jonathan or Archer? And she's like, warm. She's like, that sounds fun. Yeah, and then back on sick bay, there's this scene here with Trip and Phlox where, you know, he's like, stop telling T'Pol what to do, and she's let her be the first officer, whatever. I don't know if you guys had a reaction to that one, and. They wait for this thing. This is where they realize that they've been going in circles for a while. Archer and Shran and them, you know.
Oh yes, yes.
Because they come by the place where the worms have gone through, and they're like, we've already been here. And they realize that they're not being allowed to show the path away because they don't want her to go with them, the young one. So then the old one shows up, and she's like, "No, we're against this." And she's like, "Read my thoughts, Mom." Is this her mom? I don't know. And then
I don't think so.
Whoever, the older Aenar tells the younger Aenar.
Well, everybody takes turn being leader, so maybe she's
being leader. And she's like, read my thoughts. My thoughts are pure. I'm not going to be violent to anybody. And she's like, you're right. You're not. Okay, you can go now. And then they like review.
The creepiest smile ever.
Yeah.
Oh God.
There you go. So it's just a hologram. It was always there, guys. You know, the way out. And head on to the snow.
Kind of upset not one of them went, oh, are you fucking kidding me?
You should be like,
what's with all these goddamn holograms?
Yeah. So they get back on Enterprise, you know, and so we get this report that I guess one of the Earth freighters has been attacked.
Yes.
Right. So they're heading that way. T'Pol was briefing about that. They eventually get into sick bay and they're looking at the new machine. They're trying to hook up her into it, the young one. What's her name?
Jamal, is it?
No idea.
Jamal?
Not Jamal. Jaemeel.
Jaemeel is there. and they're trying to do a test on like this machine, and
some
it starts
huge
off okay,
brains
but
in
then
there,
it goes
eh?
bad, and it almost gives her a seizure. So they have to like eventually shut it down, right?
Yeah.
As it's going here, yeah, it starts to go erratic, and Shran doesn't like that. Shran's already becoming very protective of her, but wants to give her, a try. Guys, when we do these 3-parters, by the time I get to this part, I'm really tired. So if you guys want to help me tell the story or what happened, go ahead.
At this point, I don't remember, quite honestly.
Thanks. So,
Conveniently.
yeah, they get there. The freighter's destroyed. A bunch of human bodies. Archer's sad. And
It is definitely sad.
it's hard to tell a story about an episode for an hour and a half.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think you're doing a great job, Dave.
I haven't had dinner.
Well,
Oh, and you haven't had dinner. That's even worse.
All right. You got something to say, Adam? Go for it.
no, I was just listen. I thought personally, the 3 episodes were really good. This is the only part that I really found it just started to drag a little bit here. Did you guys feel that the same way?
The third part was my least favorite of these episodes.
Yeah.
I just thought this to drag this storyline with Shran and her. I know it's important, I guess, for the end of the story of the season, but it's for me.
I would have almost like a big Armada battle or something like as Jody said. But anyway,
Yeah, I would have rather the Armada. I would have rather seen more of the Tellarites and the Vulcans and the humans all working together.
I just want to know how Shran can jump back and forth so quickly. Like he literally like buried the other one like a minute ago, and like now he's on this one. It's like, geez.
Yeah,
he runs fast.
Yeah, he goes fast.
The Andorian Mining Consortium never retreats.
You never back down from no one.
They don't back down from anything, including romance.
Yeah, especially with the Aenar. Anyway, so they're like, here comes a Tellarite ship. It's not Tellarite, and then they start fighting with the drone ship. Soon they're fighting with 2 drone ships, right? Yeah.
Yes.
This battle goes on and on. Jaemeel, whatever. She wants to help. She's like, let me have another shot at this. And Phlox doesn't want to let her, but Shran kind of convinces. The Romulans are trying to really dig their holes. They got to destroy the Earth ship. They're going to take down Enterprise.
Always these bloody Romulans.
Yeah, these Romulans.
Always a pain in the ass.
One of the it looks like an Andorian ship, but it's not. It's another one of these drone ships, and Enterprise is got their hands full. So, but then Jamal's able to like sort of get into the machine, and then Phlox tries to pull the plug at one point, but won't. She won't let him. And
Shran is like, she can do it.
Yeah,
she can do it. Like Shran won't let him do it either.
Yeah, he just met her too, but it's all right. And yeah, the Romulans and going back and forth. And eventually, she makes contact with the brother. In the other ship so it's like telepathy through the machines. I guess they're connecting through that, enhancing the range, and they kind of talk. He was told that he was the last Aenar, that they had all been wiped out, and he's like, so they're kind of manipulating him, changing his things, and then they start realizing that the drones are
Romulans manipulating things.
No. Yeah, never.
It's literally all they do.
So these two talk a lot. I cut out most of these screenshots.
This was a little
like
long.
Their conversation goes back and forth quite a bit. Eventually, he starts working to destroy it. He gets the 2 drones to fight each other and attack. I love Archer's like, let's give him a hand. Torpedoes, right? He starts throwing it. And eventually, the Romulan admiral puts a disruptor right to his throat and tells him to stop right away.
Yes.
Even the Romulan scientist is like, no, don't do it. He's like, it's all my work. And the brother says goodbye to Jaemeel or whatever, because we see that one of the probes gets destroyed, and Admiral Valdor totally shoots him in the neck with that disruptor.
Yeah.
And then
Dave, in the season 4 DVD set, there was a deleted scene that was from this where Admiral Valdor and Senator Vrax were placed under arrest as a result of failing their mission. Yeah.
Good.
That would have been something I would have liked to see, other than the huge amount of dialogue in this episode.
I think that would have been cool too. But
I would have rather, like, if you're going to set up set these characters up. At least give me a finale to their story, unless they maybe
give me an ending to them. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So they were taken into custody by the two Remans who were previously served as Rex's guards.
And what do Remans do to you?
I don't know. We don't even know.
I don't know. They get really scary.
Now we see the Remans again in season 4, I think, but
we see Remans in Star Trek Prodigy, I want to say, but anyway.
Yeah, I can't remember if we see them more in this season or not. I think
Anyway,
we do, but anyway.
But to wrap up the episode, Enterprise goes back to Andoria. They take back Jaemeel and Shran, who have a little goodbye here. They've been hanging out for 3 episodes. You know, I'm going back here, and they beam down, say bye, and then we finally get this final scene here with Trip instead, which I guess was replaced whatever that Romulan scene would have been, where they get arrested. Where he shows up and says, "I want to transfer." Well, initially, Archer's just pour them some whiskey or bourbon or something.
Yeah, he's just like, "Oh, shut up and just have a drink." Like,
yeah,
can you?
Silly. He's like, well, I because he's reading his report and he's like, you're being a little hard on yourself in this report about how you didn't catch the glitch in the machine when you built it. And he's like, it's no excuse for it. I need to transfer. I need to get off the ship. And Archer's like, well, I need you here. You know, apparently he's already been offered a chance to go to Columbia twice and he's turned it down. And it's just sort of like this. I don't know, it's sort of a weird, it's kind of a down note ending after they defeated these.
It is, but it makes sense because we have a 2-parter after this, right? So, which kind of makes more sense because we get to see Trip. We get to see Trip on the sister ship, the Columbia. So that's kind of interesting as well. So it's kind of nice to bring back that dynamic a bit.
Yeah.
But don't you think that Archer would have said, "You're leaving over a woman"? Like any relationship, just suck it up and get to work.
Well, Trip doesn't really tell him the reason.
But he doesn't tell him the reason.
That's he knows. He's got to know. I mean,
Archer must have some idea, at least. Like, it might not be the only reason, but Trip also makes it out like, oh, the Columbia needs me more than you do now. You know, I've already, fixed everything.
They need me more, and
so let me go use my knowledge there.
Also, if Archer doesn't know, he should have more questions.
Yes, it's not just okay.
Yeah, it's okay, and I know we'll probably get there in the next episodes, but isn't like the engineer that they get to replace Trip like a complete dink?
He's not very good. He doesn't answer Archer's calls very quickly either, which is also kind of funny. But.
Yeah. So he's also a bad engineer. Yeah.
Yeah. There's actually a scene in the next episode, I think, where Archer's like, I'm calling you. Like, where are you? And he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't hear the page. It's like, oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. It's almost like, why wouldn't you promote somebody within that has seen battle and that's seen like all this stuff? But no, they bring in a rookie.
Yeah. Like Seth MacFarlane.
Well, and the best thing is Seth MacFarlane's actually in the next episode, and he's actually on the crew of the Columbia now.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, which makes it even funnier. It's like they got rid of him when they went back to spaceport, and then at that point, you don't see him again, and then all of a sudden you see him again, and
they just want some people with like experience, and so even he will do.
Yeah.
Do we get a scene with Trip looking at him, going, "Oh, you."
No, but there is a scene where because when Trip shows up, and I won't spoil too much of it, but when Trip shows up on the other ship, he's kind of an ass to everybody. He's just like, I want to leave Space Dock in like 5 days. We're going to make it happen. And that's the end of it. And these guys are like, no, it's going to take at least 2 weeks. He's like, no, it's not. We're going to do it in 3 days.
Do have you ever served under Archer? He leaves without phase cannons. He
doesn't give a shit. He's like, he goes out with no fucking warp engines. He doesn't give a fuck. He's just going to go. But anyway.
I guess Captain Hernandez is different. Okay, well, guys, let's rate these episodes. 1, 2, 3. Babel One, United, the Aenar. Jody,
I'm gonna do 9, and 8.
All right, Adam.
8, 8, and 7.
8, 8, 7. Okay, I'm going 8.5, 9, 7.5.
I think you guys are being hard on that last episode there.
10. 10.
And then I'm gonna go with probably 7. Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense for you.
Yeah, because I feel like there's all this momentum at the end of United, and I feel like we lose it in the Aenar a little bit too much.
Yeah, like absolutely right about all those ships. Like, why don't we get some of that? Isn't that what this episode is supposed to be about?
Yeah,
The beginning of the Federation,
united,
right?
bringing them together, and whatever.
Right. The next episode should have just been called "Just Kidding."
Just kidding.
Apparently, Sam has a fun fact, but we haven't got to fun facts yet. Or are we doing them today?
Well, we've been doing them on the way along.
We're doing them too, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so but we're averaging tonight 8.9 on the first episode, 9 on the second episode, and 7.4 on the second. And even on IMDb, the first 2 episodes have 8.4 each, but this third part has 8.2. So it's a little. I think the audience also doesn't like it.
Yeah. So the next episodes is going to be the 90th and 91st episode, which is a fiction, and Divergence, which is part of the Klingon augment virus arc. So it's a 2-part episode. That should give you an idea of what's going to be.
Which
How the Klingons got their ridges,
or lost them, more
or
specifically.
lost them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's what it deals with.
Anyway, you'll see it.
I actually like the next 2. I maybe like it more than this arc. So it's
Well, and as I said in the chat, I think it was yesterday or the day before. I'm like, I was surprised how much I liked these 3 episodes. Like, it was. I don't remember them being that good, but I'm like, this is great. This is Star Trek. I'm good with this. So.
Because
episode was a little.
It kind of feels like a 3-parter, but in other ways, it kind of feels like a 2-parter with sort of like a PS
add-on. Yeah,
yeah. Like, because the Aenar feels disconnected from the main story, sort of, but also not. Because it strands like the thread through all 3 episodes, but along.
It's unfortunate we don't get any more of them until the end.
That last episode is no Tellarites. Like it has
no Tellarites, no Vulcans.
It really actually has very little to do with what was happening in the first 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Other than like the ship, the Marauder, and that whole thing. But again, the theme was bringing these
groups together,
species together. And then the last episode is not about that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Tellarites should want to continue the investigation, right? Like, they should want to get to the bottom of this. And like,
I think you absolutely nailed it, because the whole thing about the conference it was glossed over. It was done in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It was just sort of like whatever. And so I think it was good, but it could have been better for me in some parts, for sure. I would have made a couple different choices, but it's nothing to get too upset about either. Sam asking, which 3-parter was the best ever?
The Bajoran trilogy.
It's not the Bajoran.
Oh God,
probably the worst ever. There's not too many 3-parters actually, but like this
there
is
a lot of 3-parters and
that one, and then the ones in this thing. I think that's it, isn't it?
So we've had 3 this season. We had like the ones with Soong, with with Brent Spiner.
We had the augments.
Yeah. We had the ones on Vulcan, like the 3-parter on Vulcan, and now we've had this, right? So
the 3-parter on Vulcan wasn't as good as the rest of them were.
But in all these 3-parters, they could have done them in 2.
They could have done them in 2 if they really stretched it. Yeah, they could have. You know what? Add another 5 minutes on each episode. Take a commercial break out and call it a day. Like it would have been fine.
Yeah, maybe. So, because I just think like
there's a lot of dialogue in this last episode that didn't need to be there. It just
right.
And then they take out something that sounds like it would have been great to have in there.
Yeah, the ending. I think
I want to see the Romulans get their comeuppance, and I didn't even get to see it.
Really? Or cut out all the scenes where you're giving me all this backstory on the Romulans, because you're not going to pay off their story anyway. So who cares? So
exactly.
Cut it out, and maybe I don't know. So just that these are nitpicks, I guess. But
the good news is, gentlemen, that after we do our 2-parter next week, we have one more episode, and then you know what happens. A Mirror Darkly.
We get that mirror universe stuff, which I've watched many times, so it's not gonna be.
It is a great.
I've seen it too. We've even acted it.
We even did it. Yeah, we even did it on Radio Theater some time ago.
I even like that they changed the intro, which is just phenomenal. I love the intro change.
Yeah,
that is the only one, Kevin, that you have to watch. The actual.
I've seen it.
Yeah,
have you watched the actual intro as well?
Yep.
like the actual intro song. Yeah.
It's much better than It's Been a Long Road and all that.
Oh yeah, way
wow.
better.
That's not hard. I can go watch an episode of Bluey and that would be better.
All right. Well, hey, we did it, guys. We talked about these 3 episodes. It took us an hour and 45, which I think is an indication that we liked it. There was a lot to unpack here. You know, what we often say is if the podcast is short, then we probably didn't like it too much, or we ran out of things to talk.
Daedalus, I think, was probably the shortest running episode we had.
Yeah, we were done in like
I think we were
30
done
minutes.
in like 38 minutes or something.
Because the plot was so dumb anyway, too, right? So we're just like, it was so easy to unpack. Anyway, so
the amount of emotionless acting in that episode is phenomenal.
Yeah. And the thing too, with Enterprise is like they're doing some cool stuff now that they have nothing else to lose. It feels like so.
Right. And now it's making me sad because it's almost over and it's finally getting good.
Yeah. Give me another.
Give me another. This indie stuff was good, but this is so much better. So much better.
I do like what they did with season 4. And actually, wait until you see Peter Weller. That's some good stuff too.
You're still averaging lower on this season though, Kevin, compared to last season.
Which is odd.
You averaged it an 8.
Really?
Bring it back up for a second, if you could.
The season's not over yet, but currently, season 3 is outbeating season 4.
I'm actually at the same as Kevin right now. Dave's actually the highest rated one right now in season 4.
Yeah, and Davin.
Oh, we're missing Adam's score from last week.
Did you watch Observer Effect?
No, I'll catch up. I haven't watched it yet.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, but it's like kind of in that 7 to 8 range.
But look at my column right here. Like, I know what the final number says, but 10, and then you get a 4 because that was terrible. 9.5, 10, 10, 7. Like, no, this season's going to be the best one.
I think we got to ditch the low score and the high score or something like that.
You got a 0 in there, right? That might be pulling the average down.
Yeah, that's probably pulling your average down a bit.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, did you know that right now we're covering Star Trek Lower Decks on Thursdays here on the network?
Have you felt about season 3 so far?
I've been good with it. Like
I'm into it.
I'm into it. I guess the theory about who the big bad's going to be is the only thing that sort of Murphy is on the page about.
But I liked the episode that just happened, last week.
Something borrowed, something green.
Yeah, the Orion one, and then the episode before that though I thought was kind of boring.
Yeah, that one got a little less hoopla from some of us, I believe. But this Thursday, we'll be talking about empathological fallacies. Is episode 5 of season 4, and we'll be halfway done season 4 of Star Trek.
One thing I have to give them credit for on that series, though, is I love the names of their episodes. They're doing a really good job with them.
They do some fun things with those.
Yeah,
some clever.
They're always punny. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and in the near future, we will be doing once this show wraps up. We're hopefully getting back to our Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch. Hoping you guys could maybe join us for that, Jody and Adam. Sam was calling for it.
Maybe I'll join for an episode. Or
just
2.
Season 7.
Season 7 isn't bad.
It's not bad, but it's not all good either. But it's kind of an up and down thing.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of Dominion War. There's a lot of
Is that? How many seasons is there total of DS9?
7. So this is the last season.
Okay, so this is the season where Jadzia isn't there anymore, and it's the other one.
She has just died. Yeah. So
yeah, she's the one that replaced her. I hated
Esri.
Anyway.
You can be there all the Esri episodes. Tell us what you think about Esri.
Oh, just what I need.
All right. So look out for those things here on Live Long and Podcast. Of course, we also do other podcasts, including Class L Probe. I believe Adam was on there last night with Davin and Dave Pugsley.
I missed it. Yeah.
Oh, well, they were on last night. I don't know who they talked to.
Yeah.
But and then also Debate 9 is coming up. I think I'm going against Heather Narduzzi in the near future, along with Davin.
You got your hands full.
I know.
She's a hard player, that one.
I believe I'm also going to like Trivia Champions Edition or something at one point too in the near future.
Oh, now you're just bragging.
I don't know.
Okay, whatever.
Champion of champions, they call me. I don't know why. And
just stroke that ego, Dave. Stroke it hard.
Also here on Live Long and we're part of a federation of podcasts, a whole bunch of network of podcasts, which features lots of different shows, lots of different channels, like Super Mario Brothers podcast, where we cover now reality TV shows like Big Brother, and this Wednesday, Survivor season 45 kicking off. We'll be talking about that, the premiere, and everything else for the next 13 weeks. Pretty exciting stuff, guys. Along with Big Brother USA season, what are we into? 25 now. Week 8. Can you believe it? Check out X.
Well, I checked out your Big Brother podcast last night with Jaemeel, and it didn't sound like you guys were having a good time with the season so far.
No, this week's been rough. And then because this week nobody's getting evicted this week. They're actually trying to put somebody back in the house, and we're like, so anyway, X-rated every Tuesday with Andre and Davin talk about X-Men the animated series and related events, interviews, great stuff. Andre, the Graphic Histories podcast, I will be interviewed on it by him this Wednesday. Actually, I'm going to be on his show.
What are you being interviewed for?
Just I'm really interesting and fascinating, so he wants to talk to me about it. Get all the details.
God, the amount of ego stroking is phenomenal tonight.
Yeah, he was like, I'm looking for some. He goes, I'm looking for some exciting guests to have on my show. I was like, have me. I'm pretty exciting.
You actually pitched yourself.
Of course, he asked. And I got it first.
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
I find you interesting, Dave.
Yeah, well, the most interesting podcast Andre will ever do. I'll be coming up on soon. So
I am definitely watching that one.
Yeah, and I'm going to be in the chat.
Well, it's not really a walk.
Oh, it's audio only. It's audio only.
It's an audio only.
I'll just we'll be in the chat. This is so interesting.
Yeah.
This is the most interesting thing I've ever
This guy might be the most interesting man in the world.
Exactly. What's even more interesting that I will also be on Hold Up, the movie podcast with David and Andre next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, talking about three
trifecta of Dave.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to be talking space movies, Outland, Apollo 13, and Ad Astra with those guys.
Those are all good.
I think they'll be all right.
Movies, yeah.
Aiming on Track, our music podcast. Raymond talks about music albums. Still waiting for the next announcement of an episode, but he's already got his episodes out there. Dave has a really dude. I would never.
I like that comment, by the way.
Yeah. Hellbound podcast back from my hiatus with Michael Chan, Alex Blackburn talking horror. Comes out Wednesdays, audio only. And I believe there was supposed to be a trivial debates this past Saturday, but I don't think
there was. But unfortunately, due to some illnesses, we had to postpone it.
So when is it happening now?
I think it's going to be 2 weeks. But I could be wrong on that. You'll have to talk to Murphy.
The Transformers episode of
I'm supposed to be the judge, but I'm still waiting to actually judge things.
Oh, I see. But you're supposed to judge it in the moment.
Well, that's what I'm going to do.
Dave is about to have an organism. An organism?
Oh my goodness.
That might be accurate. That might be accurate, though. He's not wrong. That could be accurate.
I'll have an organism
but I think he means orgasm. But
orgasm? Oh no, that's a whole other thing. It's a family-friendly channel.
There is no mirror in front of Dave right now, so that's not going to happen.
All right. Well, those are all the shows. Thanks for being with us, guys. If you've held around this long, I think you've earned.
I'm not sure why you would, but
you've earned this quote. Let's go out on this one.
Give up. A single stroke and there'll be no pain.
Think I'm losing? I'm just trying to make you look good in front of your soldiers.